Chaos is currently unfolding in the great state of Utah. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video. And today, it is time that we talk about the complete and total chaotic primary happening in the state of Utah. That is right, everyone. Utah had a special election last night, and right now it is still too close to call. Now, I didn't cover this race that much because most people thought this race was kind of done. That Becky Edwards, who we'll get to in a second, who is arguably the most liberal Republican you've ever seen, it seemed like she was going to win the special election because both the candidates either were underfunded or they had a lot of scandals, and everybody thought it was over. But then, when the votes started to get counted, and when the actual conservative parts of the district counted their votes, Malloy is currently up by 1,500 votes. That's right, with 80% in, Malloy is up by 2 percentage points, with an estimated 14,000 votes outstanding, give or take 1,000. That's right. We potentially have an upset on our hands. And this is arguably a big upset to have because Malloy is not some conservative champion. Let's be clear about that. She is a generic Republican for Utah, which a generic Republican is usually a C tier. For Utah standards, that's closer to D or F tier. That's who we're talking about. But everybody with a brain and that has not completely gone deranged is supporting Malloy. Now, before we continue with today's video, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Guys, just for $1 a month, you can join Real American. This is the best way to support the daily content that we all know and love. So I hope and recommend you join the channel today. Alright, everybody. Now, let me be 100% clear. Malloy is not some conservative, nationalist, whatever. Alright, I supported Bruce Hoof because, well, he was the only one with a conservative pulse in this election. With that being said, however, I would rather take Malloy 1,000 times out of 1,000 than Becky Edwards. Guys, Becky Edwards, when you look at her past statements, when you look at what she did in 2022 when she tried to challenge Mike Lee, when you look at her issues page, she is essentially a Democrat. I'm not even kidding when I say this. Usually I exaggerate and say, you know, this person is a Democrat or whatnot. No, in this case, this bozo is just essentially a partisan Democrat running as a Republican. Why do you think all the people on Twitter that are leftists, they all support her, they all love her over the Democrat? Because Edwards has a history of being one of the most liberal Republicans in the Utah State Legislature in the past 10 years when she was in the legislature. And on top of that, her past statements the past 5 years should indicate everything. She is a never Trumper. She supports Biden. Yeah, that's right. She supports Joe Biden even to this day. She is not even for school choice based on everything I've read and seen from this idiot. She's for pro-transgenderism. She's the definition of a woke Republican. I don't like saying that. She's pro-abortion. That's right. Not even just, pro-abortion up to like 20 weeks or whatever. From everything I've seen, she doesn't even want abortion banned after late term. She makes Nancy Mace look like a conservative nationalist. She wants war with Russia. She's just... everything terrible in a Republican, you get in Edwards. And she seemed like she was going to win because, I kid you not, a bunch of Democrats voted in this election. We know that. We know a bunch of Democrats flipped to the GOP to vote in the primary. We know that. And even then, Edwards is currently down by 1,500 votes, or just less than, because, thank God, for the conservative parts of Utah 2nd. Look, it looked bad for Malloy for a while, because when the first vote dump came from Salt Lake, look at this, 61% for Edwards. Davis, 49%. It seemed like it was over. But two things saved us, as of now. What's given Malloy a lead is two things. One, turnout in Salt Lake and Davis, and actually when you look at the rest of the district, wasn't as high as you would have thought. But number two, the conservative part of the district came out in force and voted for Malloy. Like, look at Wayne County. She got 57%. Edwards only 23%. Beaver County, 73-10. And while there's not a lot of votes in a lot of these places, they add up. I mean, Edwards in a lot of these areas is getting third. She's getting 10% in several counties. But what really saved Malloy was Washington County. That is right. This county, based on everything we know, is going to have the most votes casted in this entire district for this election, which is not a surprise. I believe it is the biggest county that's fully in here in this district. I believe so. I could be wrong about that, but it is definitely a large vote gap for Republicans in the district. And Malloy was the county chair. She got 44%, while Edwards got 22%. That's a 4,000 vote gap. Malloy's currently up by 1,400. This one county potentially saved us from Edwards, but again, it's too close to call. There's a lot of votes outstanding because frickin' Utah can't count shit. It's one of those states where these ballots can be postmarked by election day and can show up 2 weeks later. Now, as for what's expected and outstanding, there's around, based on the New York Times estimate, and again, it could be wrong, we don't know, potentially upwards of 14,000 to 15,000 votes are outstanding. And I actually had created a spreadsheet for this election because I wanted to see what the math was currently looking like. I know there's a lot here, but you look here, the current results. Malloy's at 38%, Edwards is at 36%. But here's the key. This is the expected remaining votes, and again, it's a low end of 13,000, probably a high end of 15,000. Again, it's based on New York Times. I'm just saying that we don't really know. And that's what's left. But you notice, less than 50% of the vote that's remaining, it's from Salt Lake and Davis. That's right, less than 50. That means the vast majority, or not just a vast majority, but the majority of the vote outstanding are from areas that voted for Malloy heavily. And not just Toole County, which it was very close. It's already in pretty much. It's places like Washington, Iron, Garfield, Kane. There is a lot of votes outstanding in these super duper conservative parts of this district. So what is it looking like? Now, we don't know because really it's frickin' mail-in ballots. We don't know anything. But let us just assume that the margins stay the exact same. That means, hey, say Beaver County. There's 74 votes left based on the estimates. Let's say Edwards gets 10% of that, since she got 10% of so far. Same thing in Davis. Let's say Edwards gets 49% because she got 49%, and so forth. Well, if these results stay the exact same, and we don't know with turnout, but let's say it's 13,427 votes, it is projected Edwards would win or lose by 1.8%, or around 1,500 votes. That's right. Based on what's left, it looks like Malloy is in a decent situation. But let's go through some hypotheticals. Let us say, for example, in Davis County, that Edwards overperforms by 20 points, aka negative 20. That's the overperformance, it doesn't really matter. But let's say she does 20 points better over Malloy than in the earlier batches. And let's do the same thing in Salt Lake City, negative 20. Edwards would still lose by 200 votes. Even if she did 20% better, which I don't think is going to happen in Salt Lake. Because she's already kind of peaking a little bit, like 60% already. I don't see her doing that much better. And that's the problem that Edwards may have. Unless there's way more votes expected, or if she runs up the margin with what's left of the vote in Salt Lake and Davis, and assume that Malloy does the exact same in the rest of the state, or the rest of the district. Like, let's say she does 25 points better in Salt Lake. Even then, Edwards is still down by 100 votes. Same thing in Davis, I believe. Let's check. That would give Edwards a victory. But that's assuming Malloy does the exact same in the rest of the district. And this is recount territory. There's no way this wouldn't go into recount. So even if she does 20 points better, it's not enough. She has to do around 25 points better with what's left in Salt Lake and Davis. And that's assuming that the margins in, say, Iron County, they stay the exact same. But really, this election comes down to Washington. In my opinion, this is where things will either be won or lost for Malloy. If she does 5 points better in this district, it's over. It's just 5%. I think it is over at that point. Again, we're not assuming that Hoof's margins changes. I think we're just assuming that it stays the same, which I know that's not 100% accurate, but we really don't know. We're just assuming that his margins stay roughly in line. If Malloy does 5 points better in Washington, I mean, it's still possible. Let's just check here. Negative 25 and negative 25. Malloy would win by a couple hundred votes just by doing 5% better in Washington. This is going to come down to the wire, but based on everything I'm seeing, I would much rather be in Malloy's situation than Edwards. Because Edwards, she either needs a lot more votes than expected in Davis and Salt Lake, or run up the margins in those two counties. It's possible. I'm not saying it isn't. I don't know who's going to win. But I do think right now, if the math is true, Malloy is in a decent situation. But I recommend everybody stay tuned for Washington County. This single county, I think, will tell us who wins. If she can keep the margins roughly the same, I think Malloy has it, because I don't see her Edwards doing that much better in, say, Davis and Salt Lake. And again, this is not assuming anything changes in, Iron County, for example. I'm just saying that these three counties, that's where the election will be won or lost at. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Thank you so much. Godspeed to all of you.